for that strong
Love it.
type.
say
But
anything
again, it's not to
racist
say
against
that you
white
can't
people.
find that in white people, because absolutely.
What?
Sorry, repeat that.
It's not
Say that again
racist.
with an
How
echo.
is it not racist?
I don't know what she said.
Wait,
Wait,
sorry.
because
Hold on. Wait,
you
just,
can-
wait. Hold on. Can you just repeat what you said?
If you're talking about a white person, people can't be racist to white people.
Okay, so hold on. Before we have people jump in, does anybody agree with her first?
No.
Oh, you agree.
To a certain degree. Okay, let me say to a certain degree, systematically speaking, you can't.
Wait, systematically
Well,
you
okay,
can't?
like think about it like this. Yeah, white people. When have white people been oppressed? So I'm certain.
The word slave comes from the Slavic people. That's where the word slave comes from.
Yeah.
White people were the first people to be enslaved, and people, there's way more white people that have been enslaved in history than black people, hands down.
Okay, so you're saying like Jewish people, Slavic.
Yeah, anybody who's considered white or lighter skinned, there's been way more white people enslaved than black people ever have
Okay,
been.
well then I would say.
And-
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and when we think about, why were black people enslaved, who sold them to Americans, their own people.
Who still has slavery?
Yes.
Yeah,
Africa still has slavery today.
exactly.
Yeah, they do.
And so
Because technically slavery is not a skin color. It applies to people.
Plus,
You have a
I want
pulse.
to verify. I wanted to just clarify something. Is that enslaving people? It doesn't have to be about race. Like you can enslave a bunch of dwarves. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
racist.
Yeah.
black people weren't enslaved because they're black.
So
they were
ma-
available. I
right.
mean, that sounds horrible,
So it
but
brings up
that's
the
just the
question:
truth.
what is
Everybody.
race? What is racism? Isn't it? Someone define it because they keep
Yeah,
changing the
It's
definition.
where
I
you
need
think
the
your
definition.
race is superior to another.
Or inferior.
Yes.
You can like
exactly.
say your own race is inferior.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
So-
if I say, so in your, like, I'm addressing this question to you, if I say, like, I hate white people, is that racist?
I think it's prejudice.
If I say, I hate black people, is that racist?
I think it depends on what race you're. I mean, somebody bring up the definition of racism.
Well, it's
What you
thinking
said.
that your race is superior to someone's,
that
or that your
your
race
Yeah, based on race alone.
Based on
right, or
skin
that
color.
somebody else's race, is superior
Because race is
to
skin
yours
color.
for whatever reason.
That's all it is.
Because, like, prejudice is, like, racism is prejudice against race.
Right.
So, I mean, you can say it's prejudice, but it's like, it's still racism because you're saying, like, well, I hate all black people, or I hate all
I
white
actually
people
would make even a
because-
further distinction there. I think you could be prejudiced against all sorts of people
You can.
and it not be a fully racist position.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because we can prejudge based on particulars that we gather to generalities, and you can prejudge for a variety of reasons, and that's actually a form of us navigating the world in a lot of senses. Like, anyone have kids here? I mean, the things they come home and say based in school is like,
Yeah.
it would be seen as taboo, but yet they're just describing a generality. And so the racism thing has really gotten out of control because the strictest form of racism would just be this assumption that there's superiority or inferiority only based on race, not based on a collection of behaviors even, right? Just race alone, just the distinction race. But because of that, that distinction, that definition has changed so much in the last 100 years, people think that any sort of judgment about any race that's negative is racism, but that's not the case. Like, you can just not like things about people's culture, right? Be like, I just don't like it. I don't like it. I don't prefer that culture. How could that possibly be racist? So when you say white people can't be racist, that's why it was a great question from you. When you say, I don't like, I hate white people, is that racist? She says, no. If you say, I hate black people, is it racist? You were about to say yes, but you caught yourself and you said, wait a second. There's an inconsistency here.
Yeah,
And I
did a
feel-
whole YouTube video on this, like, asking people, can black people be racist, or can only white people be racist? And most of them were saying, like, yeah, it's because racism is because you're in a position of power. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you can just hate people. Like, people just hated Jews because they're Jewish.
Yeah. And
it
I-
was nothing about, like, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I
You're
really didn't
fine.
mean to you. I feel like it was really interesting when you said, like, it was prejudice for white people, but then it would be racist. And I feel like that comes into play because I feel like in this country specifically, because of our history with racism and how horribly black people were treated back in all those times, I feel like in today's age, a lot of white people feel guilty about everything that happened, that the guilt kind of comes into play, so you won't accept that you can have white racism against white people, because it almost feels like you're going against black people, almost like,
Here,
right?
well, let's have you actually state your position.
I mean, the only reason, I mean, white people aren't suppressed like black people are, and different.
I'm suppressed. I'm oppressed.
I
Me and
mean,
Jim
I mean,
Bob.
with DEI recently, where like these companies and these
Yeah.
schools
I'm left-handed.
are literally making sure that they
Are you?
bring in
Yeah,
a certain
I'm
amount
lefty.
of black
That
people, a
sucks.
certain amount
Yeah.
of Asian
Terrible.
people, like people from other countries, and not letting white people in. I mean, we've seen that I know that at Fordham University, which is in New York City, they had a whole issue with that in the past few years, where they were purposely making sure to like give scholarships to a certain number of black students just because they wanted their university to be more diverse. And it's like, you should be judged on how well you do in school to get into a school, especially like Fordham. It's very expensive, it's very prestigious, it's a private school, like not just because you want to make your school more diverse. Like that is racism right there to me. I believe DEI is racist.
Can you give an example of the black people in America right now being, would you say, oppressed, suppressed, oppressed?
so, I mean, white people have more advantages.
Like in the law or just like socially?
In general, socially, economically.
Can you give an example?
Is it that more white
I mean-
families choose to stay together?
No, it's poverty. Look at most of the black neighborhoods. It's poverty. It's the crime. It's
What causes
Yeah, but
poverty,
why
though?
is there so much crime in black neighborhoods?
Because they're not given the same advantages white people are given.
No, it's because, like Lily was saying, that these families are not together, and when, you know, your parents don't stay together, you're more likely to get involved in crime. And the reason that these neighborhoods, these black and minority neighborhoods, are more police, it's because, you know, black men are, what are they, like 13% of the population, maybe even less than that, 6% of the population, something like that, yet they commit over 50% of the murders in this country.
Well, and also
it's like, of course they're going to be more policed in those areas where there's more crime.
And I think up to 70% of black children are born without a father in the home as well.
Yeah.
And we know from our previous discussion that that is one of the biggest determining factors for the success of a person and a community. Because before the Civil Rights Act and the welfare state was built, the black community was thriving. I mean, the Uncle Tom movies literally talk about how these communities were so great, and they were based around the church, and most families were staying together.
They own more businesses, too.
Right, yeah, like per capita. And so what your position is that we as white people have privileges, but what we're saying is our parents just made different, and I would argue sometimes better, choices.
Like, is it a privilege? Is it a privilege given to someone if they decide to keep their family together, like a father? Is it a privilege that's given to me from someone else if I stay in my family as the father, and another family, in another family, they leave? Because that's an action, like she just said. All of the statistics around fatherless homes the correlate is so massive for these kind of instances. Crime, mental illness, drug abuse, there's so many things. And so when you say, well, it's a privilege, well, what if it's the case that your culture and your ideology actually provides the privilege? What if I granted you that white people are privileged, but it's not given by some power? Isn't it possible to generate your own privilege? Can't you generate your own privilege? I mean,
You can. I mean, every situation is different.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you delineate the privileges that are a fruit of the ideology and the culture and the practices and the choices from the ones that are sort of granted from this invisible arm of power that's like, you're white? I mean, have you been to the South? Like some of these places are super poor. They're not privileged, right? Like, what's his name?
South is
Theo
super
Vaughn was like, I'm not privileged. I had to share a plum with my black friend, right? We're like, look at this plum we're sharing. It's like, this experience of being privileged it's not even predominant everywhere there's white people. It just happens to be particular types of families who have basically established generational wealth.
Yeah.
How can you establish generational wealth if the father is gone?
Yeah, and
You
I
can't.
also think that it's sad to think that a child having two parents is like a privilege, because that's just something that a child deserves, should just that should just come with, you being a child. It shouldn't be something that's like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky that you have two parents. Like, it's sad that we've come to that. You know, there's so many divided families and separated families that when I see somebody that has two parents, I'm like, oh, they're so lucky. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, white people are more privileged. And like...
How?
Well, in many ways, but you don't have to worry about driving when black. Look at how many black men have been killed by the police for doing absolutely nothing.
Okay.
What situation
Hold
are you
on.
referring to? Sorry.
Well, can you give
George
us
Floyd
a
is
couple?
one.
He was doing absolutely nothing.
Well, not enough to get murdered.
He was high on fentanyl.
So?
That's what killed him.
The autopsy actually says he overdosed, yes.
Yeah. He was screaming, I can't breathe, before they even put him on the ground.
I don't know. I didn't watch the video.
Yeah, and I mean,
That's the whole.
I mean, that's really, you really should, because the reason
and this is not a dig at you at all, I promise. I feel like that's the biggest problem with everything. People are not willing to do the deep dives and really check their sources of where they're getting the information. Because, like you said, back in the day, before there were programs like welfare and Medicaid and all that other stuff, Black people did do better because they had more of a drive to, because there was more of a reason to. When you give, and it's not a dig on Black people at all. My father's Black and Puerto Rican. My mother's Puerto Rican. Like, I'm mixed. So, but it's not, it's just about people. If you're going to always give people an out, then the wrong people are going to take it. And it's not saying that Black people are the wrong people. Don't ever take it that way. It can be white, Puerto Rican, Asian, anybody. Because if you go to New York City, you got all kinds of people on government programs that are just willing to pass down their Section 8 or their food stamps to the next family member. And that has absolutely nothing to do with their color, race, religion, whatever. That has not that. It's just about who's really willing to do the work. And in today's day and age, not many people are. And that goes into doing something as small as doing research as to why things are the way they are.
Do you think that women can be sexist towards men?
Yes.
That's for you.
Do I think women can be sexist towards men?
Yeah, like kind of in the same way that you don't think like white people can experience racism, like a Black person couldn't be racist.
I don't think white people can necessarily experience racism this day and age because there is more privilege. There's more,
right. Do you think,
more is given to white people.
Yeah, do you think men are more privileged than women?
Well, if you want to get technical, I mean, they are technically paid more. I mean, right? Across the board, aren't men?
But they also have to go to war and die for us.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
No, the way that the gender pay gap started to exist was they took all the median earnings between all men and all the median earnings between women, and they basically matched them up and said, oh, well, look, there's obviously a difference. But the problem is, if you take the lowest paying jobs, early childhood education, caretaking, nannying, etc. Those are like 98% women dominated. If you take the 5 most lucrative professions, pharmaceutical science, rocket scientists, et cetera, then you find that those are heavily male dominated. So of course, when you factor in personal choices, which feminists never want to do, you get this, what they call the wage gap, and then they blame it on men, taking that away from women, and they blame it on men, the patriarchy, which no feminist can ever define. They blame it on men because it's more
can't even define
comfortable.
a woman anymore. So how do you define a patriarchy?
If women were to make so much less than men, then why aren't companies just only employing women so that they can save money?
I don't know. I don't really care.
But I love that you also don't try to act like you know. Like, I love that you're real about it.
I
You're like,
don't,
you know
I
what? You got
don't
me.
know. All I know is that I'm passionate about, like, I don't know everything about history. During Black History Month, I sat down with one of my best friends and she told me a lot of information that I did not know. Was I embarrassed for being white? Absolutely.
How do you know it was true, though? what she told you?
You shouldn't be embarrassed for being white just because some white people have done bad things. Like
I'm
some
not,
Black, but some Black people have done horrible things, and it sucks.
Absolutely.
Like with bringing up the George Floyd thing, is that the left screams the names of drug addicts and people who have tried to grape people or who have raped people, and like George Floyd, who held a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach. Like, this was not a good man. They try to make him out like he was a good father, that he was dedicated to his girlfriend or his wife or whatever. He was not. He was a drug-addicted piece of crap, basically, that did not deserve to die. I am not saying what the policeman did was right or whatever, but that knee on his neck did not kill him. He was dying of fentanyl overdose. But then look what happens. Is that you hear part of a story, you just read the headline, and it blows up. And we made statues of this man. Like, we were marching the streets. These people burnt down cities for like over 100 days.
Yeah, my salon was looted.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
They were literally burning down Black-owned businesses.
Oh, I know.
Yet they want to scream Black Lives Matter.
I agree
They
with
want to
that.
scream Black Lives Matter, yet they support an organization, which is just the abortion industrial complex, that kills over 400,000 Black babies every single year.
But I'm not just talking about George Floyd. There's many situations, Black men and women, that have been killed for no reason other
But
than
hold on.
being Black.
So, but
who?
wait, just a question for you though. So you're
I
saying,
mean, all the names
but
that everybody
just curious. So,
Trayvon Martin?
So
Sorry, I'm
let's
interrupting.
Okay, so let's use George Floyd for an example, right? Let's just go ahead and grant that. Sure, let's say it was murder. Like, let's say I don't think it was, but let's say it was, right? What evidence from the video or anything else would actually point that he did it because he was Black? So, like, if bad thing happened to Black person, does it mean like bad thing happened to Black person equals racism, or can bad things happen to anybody and it doesn't, like, bad thing happen to woman, bad thing happen to Black person, doesn't mean it's sexism, doesn't mean it's racism?
Yeah.
Right. So I get that George Floyd was Black, but what specifically would indicate that it was because he was Black that he was murdered?
I'm not saying there is anything to indicate, but some of the other situations where Black people have been killed for no reason, they didn't do anything.
Yeah, and that's not okay. I mean, obviously, we can all agree with that. But George Floyd he did not die, and he was not arrested because he was Black.
No.
Yet they burned down cities and screamed Black Lives Matter and put him at the top of the movement.
I mean, I don't agree with all, that was crazy. Like, the amount of damage that was done over that, I don't agree with.
But so question to you then.
Great, yeah.
I was asking you previously, can women be sexist towards men?
Can women be sexist towards men?
Right.
Sure.
Oh, okay.